I sat at the far end of the Sunday dinner table, fork halfway to my mouth, watching Rachel swipe through the listing photos on her phone. The images were professional, golden hour lighting across the vine rows, the stone terrace with its wrought iron furniture, the infinity pool reflecting sunset colors. My Vineyard estate. The property I'd purchased 8 years ago when Dad told me, "Wine country real estate? You'll be bankrupt in 2 years." 3 qualified buyers already, Rachel repeated, tilting the screen toward Mom. Marcus says we could have a bidding war by Wednesday. One couple from San Francisco saw the photos and wants to tour tomorrow morning. Mom's eyes were damp. She squeezed Rachel's hand across the table. "Finally getting what you deserve, sweetheart. After all those years supporting this family while your sister played farmer." My phone buzzed in my lap. I glanced down at the screen. "Kate, emergency. Someone's trying to close on 847 Meadowlark Drive. They're forging your signature. Call me now. Jennifer. Jennifer Moss. My college roommate. The woman I'd helped through organic chemistry while she balanced 2 jobs. Who now ran compliance at Coastal Valley Escrow, the largest title company in wine country." I set my fork down carefully. The sharp clink against the plate was the only sound I made. "The inspection's Thursday at 2 p.m., Rachel continued, scrolling through her messages. "Marcus already has the key copied. I told him to meet the inspector there directly. No need to bother Kate about it." Brother-in-law Derek raised his wine glass. "To Rachel. To finally getting the family business the capital injection it needs." The family business. Dad's boutique consulting firm that had been temporarily struggling for the past 6 years. The same firm where Rachel worked as executive vice president. A title that meant she scheduled Dad's meetings and managed his calendar. I excused myself to the bathroom, phone already pressed to my ear. "Jennifer." "Kate." Her voice was tight, professional. "I'm looking at escrow instructions for 847 Meadowlark Drive. Sale price $4.1 million. Seller signature dated last Tuesday. But the notary stamp number doesn't match our database. The signature slant is 12 degrees off your actual signature pattern and..." She paused. "Kate, I had coffee with you last Tuesday. You were in Portland for the wine distributor conference." My reflection stared back at me in the bathroom mirror. The walls were pale yellow, the air smelled like Mom's lavender soap, and somewhere outside this door my family was celebrating their successful theft of my property. "Who's the selling agent?" I asked. "Marcus Chin. Boutique Estates Realty." "And the deed? How did they?" "Forged quitclaim deed filed with the county 3 weeks ago. Someone paid the express processing fee, $450 to jump the verification queue. It almost worked. But every property over $3 million triggers our enhanced compliance protocol. I personally review the signatures." I thought about Tuesday. The Portland Convention Center, the afternoon session on organic certification standards, the evening networking event where I'd connected with a Seattle distributor. My phone's location data could prove I was 632 miles away when I allegedly signed away my property. "What happens now?" I asked. "I've frozen the escrow account. The buyer's $410,000 deposit is secured. I'm filing a fraud report with the county recorder's office and the state real estate commission." "And Kate?" Her voice softened slightly. "I'm sorry, but you need to call the police tonight." I returned to the dining room. Rachel was showing Dad the comparative market analysis. Glossy pages showing recent vineyard sales, price per acre calculations, projected timelines. The realtor had been thorough. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned. "The buyer's attorney already approved the preliminary title report," Rachel was saying. "Marcus says that's the hard part. Everything else is just paperwork." I sat down. I picked up my water glass. The ice had melted, leaving it room temperature and slightly metallic. "When did you decide to do this?" I asked. The table went quiet. Rachel looked up, her expression briefly confused before smoothing into something practiced. "Do what?" "Forge the deed to my property." Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Dad's hand froze, reaching for the wine bottle. Derek's eyes went to Rachel, then quickly away. "Kate, what are you talking about?" Rachel's voice had that edge it got when she was about to cry. The edge that had ended arguments since we were children. "This is the Vineyard estate. The family agreed." "The family agreed to steal my property?" "You're being dramatic." Mom's voice was sharp. Rachel explained everything. The property is wasted on you anyway. You're never there. It just sits empty while you're traveling for that little wine hobby. That little wine hobby generated $340,000 in revenue last year. The estate's property value increased 47% since purchase. And I was in Portland last Tuesday when I allegedly signed the quitclaim deed transferring ownership to Rachel. The silence that followed was different. This wasn't shock. This was the moment when people who've been caught decide whether to double down or retreat. Rachel chose to double down. You're just jealous that I'm finally successful. That I'm saving the family business while you play at being a vintner. Her voice rose. Do you know how many sacrifices I've made? How many years I've worked for Dad supporting this family while you selfishly hoarded your assets? There's a psychological concept called the gambler's fallacy. It's the belief that if you keep playing, keep betting, eventually the odds will turn in your favor. I'd spent 8 years thinking if I just proved myself successful enough, if I just built something undeniable enough, my family would finally see me as something other than a failure who got lucky. But their narrative was more important than my reality. The escrow officer is Jennifer Moss, I said quietly. My college roommate. She personally reviews every transaction over $3 million. She called me an hour ago. The color drained from Rachel's face. She's already frozen the escrow account. The $410,000 buyer deposit is secured. She's filing fraud reports with the county recorder and the state real estate commission. I looked at each of them. And I'm calling the police when I leave here tonight. Derek stood up so fast his chair tipped backward. Rachel, we need to. Sit down, Derek. Dad's voice was commanding, the tone he used with difficult clients. He turned to me, his expression shifting into something I recognized. The reasonable negotiator, the calm patriarch. Kate, let's not be hasty. This is obviously a misunderstanding. Rachel was trying to help. By forging my signature on a quitclaim deed? By liquidating an asset you're not even using to save the family business. Our business. The business that will employ your future nieces and nephews, that represents 3 generations of. The business where Rachel is paid $85,000 annually to schedule meetings while I built a vineyard from bare land. I stood up. The business that's failed every quarter for 6 years while you've blamed market conditions instead of admitting you can't adapt. Mom made a small sound. I looked at her, this woman who'd told me at 23 that investing in you would be a waste of resources. Who'd suggested I find a good man instead of playing businesswoman. I created a document after this dinner. I called it the Ghost Ledger. Not a financial accounting but an emotional one. Line item 1. Father's living room, age 23. He said, you'll be bankrupt in 2 years. Cost, 8 years of proving I wasn't a failure. Unrecoverable. Line item 2. Every family gathering where my business was called a hobby. Cost. Confidence erosion quantified in opportunities not pursued. Unrecoverable. Line item 3. Rachel's 40th birthday where my gift, a case of my vintage, was called thoughtful I guess. Her husband's golf clubs got 40 minutes of gratitude. Cost. The belief that my work had value. Unrecoverable. Line item 4. Mother asking when I'd settle down, while Rachel's calendar management job was called executive leadership. Cost. Self-respect, slowly eroded. Partially recoverable through boundaries. The ghost ledger ran to 3 pages. The total wasn't in dollars. It was in dignity. The procedural justice system moved with precision. Step 1. Evidence collection. I spent Monday morning at the county recorder's office. The forged quitclaim deed was document hashtag 2024-087453, filed November 3 at 2:47 p.m. The notary stamp belonged to Sarah Chin, Marcus Chen's wife, whose notary license had expired 14 months ago. The signature was mine, except the capital K was 3.2 millimeters too tall and the terminal stroke on the E curved upward instead of my natural downward hook. I photographed everything. I backed up files to 3 separate cloud services. I organized documents in labeled folders. Step 2. Professional consultation. Tuesday morning I met with Patricia Huang, a real estate attorney who'd handled my original property purchase. She reviewed the evidence at her standing desk, her office windows overlooking downtown's tech district. "This is slam dunk fraud," she said. "Forged deed with expired notary signature analysis discrepancies, and your alibi with location data. We'll file criminal charges, pursue civil damages, and get a restraining order preventing any further fraud attempts." "How long?" "Arraignment within 48 hours if they're arrested. Civil suit takes months, but we'll freeze any assets obtained through fraud immediately." Step 3. Filing process. We submitted the criminal complaint to the district attorney's office at 3:15 p.m. Tuesday. Case number 2024-CR8834. The DA's Fraud Division expedited review. Property theft over $1 million triggered enhanced protocols. Step 4. Law enforcement response. Wednesday morning, 2 detectives visited Rachel's home. They collected her computer, phone records, and text messages with Marcus Chin. The messages were damning. Rachel to Marcus, October 28th. "Can your wife notarize? Her license expired, but will the county actually check?" Marcus to Rachel, October 29th. "Should be fine. They're backed up. Just pay the express fee." Rachel to Marcus, November 1st. Signature practice attached. "How's this look?" Step 5. Counter evidence. Rachel's attorney presented their defense. "I'd given verbal permission for the sale. Rachel had acted in good faith. The family business needed capital, and my absence from the property implied abandonment." Patricia dismantled each claim in her written response. Verbal permission doesn't override written deed requirements. Good faith doesn't excuse forgery. Family financial needs don't create property rights. And absence from property doesn't imply abandonment. Plaintiff travels extensively for the Vineyard business, generating $340,000 annually. Step 6. Arraignment. Thursday morning, Judge Michael Torres reviewed the evidence. Rachel stood beside her attorney, wearing a navy suit that probably cost $800. Derek sat in the gallery, his face gray. Mom and Dad were in the back row. Judge Torres read through the signature analysis. The handwriting expert's report concluded with 98.7% certainty the signature was forged. The notary stamped discrepancy. The text messages. My Portland hotel receipt and conference badge scan. "Ms. Brennan," Judge Torres said, looking at Rachel over his glasses. "You knowingly used an expired notary seal, forged your sister's signature, and attempted to fraudulently transfer property valued at $4.1 million. Do you understand the severity of these charges?" Rachel's voice was barely audible. "Yes, Your Honor. Grand theft, forgery, and conspiracy to commit real estate fraud. Bail is set at $250,000. Preliminary hearing scheduled for December 12th. He turned to Marcus Chin, who stood in handcuffs beside his own attorney. "Mr. Chin, your real estate license is suspended pending state commission review. Bail is set at $150,000. The bailiff led them both away. Mom made a broken sound. Dad sat perfectly still, staring straight ahead. Step 7. Civil proceedings. I filed a lawsuit seeking $2.1 million in damages. The property's appreciation value if sold legitimately, legal fees, emotional distress, and punitive damages. The suit named Rachel, Derek, Marcus Chin, and Boutique Estates Realty. Step 8. Criminal prosecution timeline. The DA offered Rachel a plea deal. Plead guilty to felony forgery, serve 18 months with possibility of parole after 9, pay $175,000 in restitution, and testify against Marcus Chin. She accepted. Marcus Chin went to trial, was convicted on all counts, and received 4 years. Step 9. Appeals. Rachel's attorney filed an appeal citing family pressure and financial desperation. It was denied. The appellate court's opinion noted, financial hardship doesn't excuse deliberate fraud. The defendant's planning, use of expired notary credentials, and attempts to conceal her actions demonstrate clear criminal intent. The consequences cascaded in phases. Criminal. Rachel served 9 months before parole. Marcus Chin served 2 years before being released to a halfway house. Both have permanent felony records. Professional. Marcus Chin's real estate license was permanently revoked. His wife Sarah lost her notary license and paid $15,000 in fines. Boutique Estates Realty closed after 3 months. No one wants to work with an agency associated with fraud. Civil. The $2.1 million judgment was parceled out. I received $890,000 from the sale of Rachel and Derek's home, the house they'd bought with Dad's temporary loan that was never repaid. The remaining judgment amount garnishes Derek's salary at 25% until paid in full. At his current income, that's 17 years. Financial. Dad's consulting business collapsed. Turns out 3 major clients quietly left after the news coverage. We can't work with a firm whose principal's family commits real estate fraud. The business closed in February. Dad took a job as a contract consultant at 40% of his previous income. Social. The local newspaper ran the story. Prominent consultant's daughter attempts $1 million property fraud. The wine country community is small. Rachel and Derek moved to Sacramento. Mom and Dad moved to a rental condo in the cheaper part of town. I still see Mom sometimes at the grocery store. She looks through me like I'm not there. 6 months later, I stood on the stone terrace of the Vineyard estate. The evening air smelled like fermenting grapes and dry grass. The vines were heavy with Cabernet Sauvignon clusters, ready for harvest. My vineyard manager reported a 23% yield increase over last year. The estate's value had appreciated to $4.7 million. I had no intention of selling. I'd installed a new security system, cameras, motion sensors, title monitoring service that alerted me to any county filing attempts. Jennifer Moss sent me updates quarterly, all clear. No suspicious activity. My phone had blocked numbers for Mom, Dad, Rachel, and Derek. No calls. No texts. No surprise visits. The restraining order had been extended twice and was now permanent. Last month, I'd purchased a second property, 40 acres in Paso Robles with southern exposure and limestone soil. The previous owner had called it too risky for commercial vineyard development. I closed escrow in 18 days. There's a quote I read somewhere: "Revenge isn't rage. It's patience sharpened into strategy." But that's not quite right. Revenge isn't strategy. Revenge is surviving their dismissal so thoroughly that they're forced to watch you thrive without them. I have a framed copy of the deed in my office. Not the forged one, the original. The one I purchased with my own capital 8 years ago when Dad said I'd be bankrupt. The one that now anchors a growing portfolio. From this terrace I can see the entire valley. The hills roll gold and green into the distance. The sun sets red-orange over the horizon. And somewhere out there my family lives with the consequences of their choices. I built this. I protected this. And I will never, ever share it with people who saw my success as something they deserved more than I did. The harvest begins tomorrow. The season looks excellent.